Hey everyone, The Revolution, the book whisperer. I've written 4 screenplays, 3 books, and I've recorded 3 poetry CDs. This video, we're going to talk about what writing means and why I'm going to try to convince you to actually sit down and write your story. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in Chicago. I had a totally different life than the guy you're sitting on camera. I grew up in Chicago. I grew up gangbanging, and I grew up on the street corner selling drugs and doing everything a lot of Chicago men do. Um, and then my mom, who was on drugs, actually passed away. Now, I saw a lot of stuff growing up. I seen a lot of things that was making my wheels turn. I was trying to figure out why people do the things they do, and it took my mother to pass away for me to realize that maybe these drugs are something I shouldn't sell. Okay, so then I moved to another city and state where I knew somebody. And when I moved to another city and state, um, I started to see life a little bit differently, and I realized that Chicago, Chicago wasn't normal. I mean, the food, everything was great about it in some areas, but it just wasn't normal the way that we were living. And just profoundly, the same as I realized that, well, I started to ask myself, well, how many people have I killed selling these drugs, doing this and doing that? But that question would have never came to me had I not lost my mother. Now, the story. Just to have a story, to be able that I've lived and be able to ask those questions and make some. When somebody read my story, they're able to think, wow, when they read my story and seeing the success that I've had, because I started doing spoken word, and I've been performing all over the city in different places for 20 years, so I got really known for being a spoken word artist. But a lot of things that I wrote about, let me back up just a little bit. The reason why I started writing, well, I was writing before I left Chicago, but when I started really taking it serious was when I moved. I left Chicago and I had experienced all of those things, but I started writing my thoughts down because I'm in a new. I'm having a culture shock in this new city, and I'm starting to see things that I didn't know when I was living in Chicago in one particular environment. So I just started writing down thoughts. I was growing, my maturity was growing, and I'm starting to look at life totally different. Now, as I started to do that, I would start performing. I started writing poetry, and then I would go and perform at these different events, and then I recorded my first poetry CD. Now this is kind of when things took a turn. When people would listen to the CD, like let's say somebody would buy my CD, and this person bought my CD, the next time I seen that person, they wouldn't look at me the same. And I started to notice that. And they always had some type of, oh man, you've been through a lot, man, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. What are they hearing that because to me I wasn't saying anything, but it took me a while to really learn that my life was different. It was normal to me, but when somebody else heard it, it was like, wow. And so that's probably when I started to really understand the strength of writing and the strength of the things that I was saying. And I'm making this point to make it to you. Make for you, the writer. If you are thinking about writing your story, we need your story. The world needs your story. You are holding back your purpose because your story, even if it's not relevant to you, it's relevant to us. We need that. We need to hear what you learned from your story. We need to know what you've overcome to be the person to sit down and write the story now. Because that's what I became. I went through the storm to come around and be able to write my first book, One Chance to Be a Man. One Chance to Be a Man is a significant title because when I left the city of Chicago, I had to learn how to be a man, and I wrote my story. I wrote my story, and my book, a few inmates, prisoners, I would read my book. My whole purpose was to say, hey, listen, you know what? I was in a different frequency when I was in Chicago. Totally different guy. Never seen this life coming at all. Didn't even have a clue. Even though I knew I liked to write, I never knew I was going to be this big time poet. And the name D Revolution, which is what they call me, is my pen name. That name didn't even exist. And so my thing is, it was another life for me. And when I look at my siblings now, because they went through similar things with me, with my mother being on drugs and things like that. When I look at myself and I look at my siblings, I realize how much writing has saved my life. How much writing has grounded me and put me in a really stable position in life, mentally. I mean, I'm not gonna front. When I look at my brother and sister, I feel like they could have used, some counseling or, maybe some writing themselves. Because of how they look at life now and how they deal with things. But it just made me realize even more how important being able to write that poetry and write my thoughts down and how I felt and being angry and being emotional and getting it all out for several years, how important it was. And I'm saying to you that it will be just as important to you to, I'm sorry, something in my mouth. It would be just as important to you to write down your thoughts, and as you write your thoughts, someone else can read it and you can help somebody else. You have a purpose that you have been put in to express and help the world. Now, my thing is that man, I'm losing my train of thought here. My thing is that I've went through a lot. People will read my stuff. Some people would look down on me or criticize me, but or people would judge my story, or people would judge some of the things I did because I was honest. I was honest about the things I did in the book. But what was funny is I always felt like if you're looking at me, the curator of this poetry and reading, and look where I am now, you have no idea of the stuff that's going on in this world, because the stuff I did wasn't nothing compared to the stuff that I've seen. Now, but there are so many people that are blinded to what's going on in the world that they need your story. They need you to tell them, and they need to experience your story through your eyes, through your voice. So whatever's stopping you, and for whatever reason why you haven't sat down and wrote your story, it's your duty to write your story and understand that your story, it don't only belong to you. Your story is a part of the history of this world, and you are in this world. Sit down, write your book, write your story, and save us. Save us and enlighten us. That is your job. And if you don't sit down and do it, you will never forgive yourself for not writing your story. And for the world, I can't lead the world without them knowing my story. My book is gonna be here. So even when I'm dead and gone, people gonna know D-Rev was here. People gonna know my story, and one day it might be a movie about my story. I might be dead and gone, but you gotta know my story, and guess what? You're gonna learn from my story. And I would say this: if you want to know my story, if you need if you need inspiration to see where I've come, to where I am, to how you got to watching this video, how we got to this point, I'm going to put my website in the video. Right now, this book is sold out. It's sold out 3 or 4 times. It's a powerful, powerful book. But if you need inspiration, just read my story, order my book, read my story, and you will know how to tell your story. Because that's what I did. I read Iceberg Slim story, Pimp. Another powerful, powerful journey. And ironically, Iceberg Slim is from Chicago as well. So I read his book, you know what I'm saying? It was just kind of like listening to Tupac. You know, you listen to Tupac, DMX, and, you know, they really express themselves. But what they express helped me express myself. What Iceberg or Slim expressed helped me express myself. But we all have to do it. And so what I'm saying is, we can find these reasons not to write our story. What I'm saying is bigger than you. It's bigger than you. Understand that. And that's all I'm here to tell you. It's bigger than you. Write your story. You don't have to rush and try to get it done in a week. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, but when it's done, it's in the world and it's going to be there forever. Take your time, write it, and don't feel like that you got to rush and hurry and do. Just get it written, and then the rest will work itself out. Just write it. Write it. I'm D-Revolution. Please like and subscribe to my page. I need subscribers. Writers, I care about you. We need you. Peace.